One thing's for sure, Dying Light 2 is a beautiful looking game out in the open, and the GeForce Now 3080 tier certainly does it justice. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Cloud Gaming Extreme channel. Dying Light 2 is now available on GeForce Now, so we dove in on the RTX 3080 tier and dialed everything up to the max. So we're running the DirectX 12 Ultra graphics here with Raytracing enabled. I've also pushed up the field of view up to 5 from the default of 0, so we've got a wider viewing angle as well. The water in Dying Light 2 is probably the most questionable of all of the graphics. The effects and the bubbles are a little bit questionable, but the rest of the graphics are absolutely fantastic. Just look at the trees swaying here and the birds above. We do get a little bit of blurriness here and there, but we are also seeing dips down into the 30 FPS when a lot of stuff is going on. So I think the stream has a little bit of an issue there where it's trying to compress all of this data down. But generally, moving it around, it does look exceptionally good. And as soon as we stop for just a second or less, everything sharpens up and looks crystal clear. So when we come into the combat, everything is much more smooth. As you can see here, the blood splatter effect and moving around is absolutely awesome. The combat does take a bit of getting used to. This is some really early combat, and I'll show you a bit more of the advanced combat in just a minute. But just wanted to show some of the basics in this nice light environment as it gets a bit dark and dingy in a little while. You can see the frames per second are sticking around the 40s in this area, and this does bounce up and down. This certainly takes a huge hit on the graphics front with the DirectX 12 ray tracing enabled at 1440p. So if you do want to make sure you get that steady 60 or 120 frames per second, you are really going to need to dial down those settings, and most likely with no ray tracing. However, with the bounce between 30 and 60, the game still looks and performs absolutely awesome. And when we are inside with that combat, you can see that we are getting closer to 60 frames per second a lot of the time. And that small dip down occasionally doesn't really ruin the gameplay at all. I think having these ray tracing effects and all the extra graphics does just give you some great immersion here and doesn't really detract away from the fast-paced gameplay, as although it is fairly fast-paced in the combat, it's slow enough not to need 60 plus frames per second for those instant reaction times. This is much more suited to a controller, and unfortunately there is a bug with the game right now that controller on PC is not working. It does seem to work on the Shield though, you can play there with the controller, but the prompts are still the keyboard and mouse. So we expect a patch soon for this in the game. As you can see, we've switched weapons now, and this really does change up the style of combat. So it really does make a huge difference of what weapons you're using in this game. There are so many elements, I just want to touch on a few and the performance of GeForce Now here, but we also have a lot of crafting elements, as well as your tech tree and skill trees as well. The parkour combat is extremely fun, and as I said, this is still some of the fairly basic combat, and there's some really cool skills coming in the tree later on, which will make combat so much more fun. Overall though, so far with my experience with Dying Light 2 is I've had no issues at all using mouse and keyboard, and the graphics and the storyline so far is extremely engaging. Let us know in the comments below if you're going to be diving into Dying Light 2 and if you're going to be picking it up on GeForce Now. You're going to be seeing a lot more of Dying Light 2, especially with some comparisons across the virtual PCs and consoles, as well as on the Shield TV. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things cloud gaming, and we will see you next time.